Well, you remember some months ago when I did a video celebrating Capcom's 25th anniversary of Resident Evil? If you recall, during that live stream, they announced they were working on a Netflix series called Resident Evil Infinite Darkness. Many of us forgot that this series even existed, and just through dumb luck stumbling on what to watch next on Netflix, I found it. Resident Evil Infinite Darkness, according to Wikipedia over here, it actually was released on July 8th, 2021, by my account that is many, many months ago. But I did finally get a chance to watch all four episodes in their entirety, and I wanted to do a review of it because I don't typically do video reviews here, but video game reviews, now that's something I'm into. And if you're going to do a animated show based on one of the greatest gaming franchises, Resident Evil, well, it's basically for me, right? Um, Now, this was a very interesting take, and I'm going to do my best not to spoil anything. So if you haven't, like most other people, watched it or even remembered it's out, fear not, I'm not going to ruin anything for you guys today. However, I will say that it was very short. It's only four episodes that each run about 25 minutes in length once you take out the introduction and the end credit scene. They follow the Resident Evil 2 stars, Leon Kennedy and Claire Redfield. There are others, there are many others, but I don't want to give too much away, like I said. But it's safe to say that Leon and Claire are definitely at the center of this. And what is this? Well, if you know anything about Resident Evil, you know it's about zombies. And typically, zombies and the way they become zombies, who is behind it, and why. Now, that is the mystery, but safe to say there will be plenty of zombies in this movie. And they're going to make an appearance very early and quite often. The story intersects with a military group that went on a rescue mission in this war-torn country. It was basically Afghanistan without being Afghanistan. But essentially, this mission of these group of soldiers, what happens to them, and how it spawns into a greater, I don't even want to say conspiracy because it's safe to say, there's people up to no good. But how does it all bubble up, and why are Leon and Claire thrown into the center of it? Well, that is going to all be explained. Do I recommend this film? Maybe. I recommend it for somebody who has already played Resident Evil series at some point in their life. Hopefully Resident Evil 2 and Resident Evil 4, which star our man Leon S. Kennedy. Claire Redfield also in Resident Evil 2 as well. The reason why I say it's kind of made for fans already. While while this movie doesn't really get too deep into their backstory, it also doesn't get into their backstory at all. So, in other words, basically, what you know of them is very surface level. I think having played the games, you will get some appreciation for what they've done. There are a couple scenes where it is alluded to things that they have done in the game in the past, particularly why Leon was chosen as part of this organization, I'll say, being loose here, why he was chosen to participate in this whole story. Really has a lot to do with his involvement as Resident Evil 4's hero. If you didn't play that, you may be a little confused as to what is going on, but I don't think it takes away from too much because it's very surface level. And unfortunately, this game does, here, same game again, this movie does not do a good job of building up anybody's backstory. So what I knew about Leon Kennedy going into this is exactly what I got out of it after it was over. The same with Claire, and the same with all the other characters that are introduced. If you are familiar with them or have heard of them in the greater Resident Evil universe, they're all exactly who they appear to be. There isn't a whole lot of major exposition or wild story elements in it. And That was discouraging. I guess it was because they wanted to frame it within the narrative of the Resident Evil game series. And my guess, I don't know, is that maybe they wanted to keep that kind of stuff for the game. Although, for what it's worth, thinking back on all the Resident Evils I've played, and it's a lot of them, you don't really have so much major character involvement. It's really more like you're thrown into some madness, good luck and get out. Typically, there's obviously little elements here and there of learning about a character's, conflicted backstory or why they're doing what they're doing. But for the most part, it's pretty safe to say that a lot of the characters in this universe are really just kind of facades and kind of nameless, faceless almost. And the real story is you, the player, kind of experiencing this nuttiness through their eyes. And I feel almost like Infinite Darkness does follow suit to that as well. It is an animated film, and I have to say the animation was amazing at times and really bad at times. There were moments that it looked photorealistic to me. There were definitely some scenes where I was like, okay, this is clearly not all animated. They must have inserted live action like B-roll, but no, it's all animated. They did a phenomenal job with a lot of the animation, the lighting, the noises, and the feeling of the tension, the way characters move around, incredibly lifelike. There are a few scenes though that are very clearly like low budget or reshoots or something where things don't look quite right. Particularly with some of the animations, they're rapidly sped up. Like a character will sit up in half of a second, which is like, whoa, did I just watch something in 40x speed? But just that character, everybody else around them still maintains their normal momentum and movement. There also are some backgrounds that just don't look quite right. It almost looks like a blue screen, honestly. That's the best way. If you ever watched a movie where the background's like, ooh, that's really a blue screen. You could really tell that like they animated the characters and then just slapped them on something. And it's like, ooh, that doesn't look quite right. But for the most part, it is very photorealistic. And I think that does add to the value a lot, particularly in the way that their characters, the emotions and their body language. I think it does a really good job of conveying that. From what I can tell, though, the dubbing isn't perfect. Obviously, Resident Evil is based in Japan, and I suspect that this was released simultaneous in the US and Japan, or some combination thereof. While their mouth does move, and it generally matches the kind of tone of what they're saying, the lips very clearly are not what they're saying. It's not as bad as a character like a Japanese film where their lips will be moving and they won't be speaking, or the other way around. They did a good job of matching that. But like when a character is saying an O sound, you see how my mouth makes like a circle, O. A character will say O with their mouth open like this. I'm like, no one goes, when they make a sound like that. So there's a couple moments in there that does kind of like break the realism. But for what it was worth, hey, I'll always take more Resident Evil. I love it. I know what I'm getting into when I watch it. I know it's sometimes campy horror. It's not necessarily the most well written. I think you're going to see through the plot very rapidly. At least most of you will if you've played the games before. But if you haven't, I would still say watch it, be a little bit confused, and that's okay. Maybe that'll motivate you to go play some of the older games because they're phenomenal. And because I feel like after playing through all the Resident Evils and patiently waiting my turn like everyone else for either Resident Evil Village DLC or whatever adventure throws our way next, it's nice to see that some games can take that media from video gaming and transcend into live action. So, or in this case, animated action. But either way, there you have it. That is my full review on Resident Evil Infinite Darkness. I want to hear from you guys in the comments below. Did you watch this when it came out? Did you forget about it? If you didn't and you watched it now, come back and tell me what you think. And you want more of this because I know I do. With that, I'm closing out this video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Take care of yourselves. And until next time, I will see you guys on the other side.